we spent the afternoon just kind of exploring the city, doing a little shopping. That was a lot of fun. And then we had dinner. We had reservations at a speakeasy. They had come across called Red Frog. And so we went over there. We couldn't find the place, right? It's hidden. There's no instructions when I made the reservation. Yeah.
That's the thing about a speakeasy.
We're literally just walking back and forth on the block. I'm going, it's got to be here somewhere. I don't know where it is. And then two other Americans come and they're looking for the same place. And so we're all four of us are just walking around asking random people. And everyone's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel. And Sam, we got to start with a listener review. As always, listener review time. So
I love that. I like our recorded shows sometimes. I mean, I love our live shows because we get like immediate feedback from people interacting with us. But sometimes I get sad when it's been a while since we've recorded a recorded show because I like hearing the listener reviews.
You can always just go on and read them yourself. But,
I know, I do sometimes. If I'm feeling really sad, I go and read our listener reviews.
Yes. All right. Well, this week's listener review comes from Michelle Mybell 21, who writes, a great show. This podcast is a great way to not only plan for your next Disney cruise, but it's also a great way to get you through the post-cruise blues till your next magical Disney cruise. Well,
love that.
I'm glad to hear that we are providing that service. And thank you, Michelle, for that lovely listener review. If you would like to help support our show, it is so easy, so easy. Just head over to Apple Podcasts, hit those 5 stars. You don't have to do anything else. Just hit the 5 stars. If you want to go the extra mile, you can leave us a written review just like Michelle did, and we will read it on the top of on the air at the top of one of our main episodes. So, Michelle, thank you again for that review. We really appreciate it. And Sam, I'm handed over to you to introduce our guest. And I got a really fun topic, a cruise you want to take, I know. So
I know. I keep talking about how I want to take one of these cruises. So I'm going to just spoil it right there. I want to take a transatlantic or trans-Pacific crossing cruise. These are the longer cruises on Disney Cruise Line. They're pretty much the longest itineraries you can take. I mean, Panama Canal is the only other one that's as long. And I'm super jealous of today's guest, Chris, because he was able to take the transatlantic cruise on the Disney Dream when it came back from Europe this past season in the fall. So welcome to the show for the first time, Chris. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun. Spoiler alert, this is the best itinerary in the Disney Cruise Line catalog, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Wow.
Those are fighting words.
For the price and everything you get out of it, it's got to be the best option.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, sort of starting up front with price, per night, on a per night basis, the transatlantic, trans-Pacific, Panama Canal cruises, those all, I think, in general, you get the best bang for your buck. I mean, other than getting some sort of special like cast member discount or, travel industry discount or something like that. These are the best per night basis. So even though the price tag as a whole might look big, I mean, you're talking 2 weeks on a ship. I mean, you might pay like the same as you might pay for like a 5-night cruise.
We have a 3-night booked in like 6 weeks. And it was that cruise was half the price of this 2-week-long transatlantic. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Just crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So, which means, right, you pay like for 1 week long cruise, it would be about the same price then as this 2-week cruise. So double. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, well, before we dive into talking about this cruise and why you chose it, but obviously, I mean, it's why did you choose it? Of course, you choose the longer the cruise, the better. But tell us how you became a fan of Disney Cruise Line. Did you have a love of Disney that came before your love of Disney Cruise Line? But where did this all start?
Big Disney family, my wife, my 2 kids. And it really kind of started with me, but then the kids really sort of took it and ran. So didn't get an opportunity to travel a lot growing up. And we took 3 vacations that I remember. We went to the Grand Canyon. That was fun. And then 2 trips to Disney World. I grew up in Michigan, so we would drive down to Florida and just kind of fell in love with the happiness of Disney World and the parks. I had an opportunity to move to Orlando for work. I wasn't working at Disney, but we lived in the Orlando area. Both our kids were born. We had annual passes. We went all the time and just really enjoyed it. And then we moved away. I think our daughter was probably about 5 or 6. We moved to Seattle, so we lived in your neck of the woods there for a little while. It was very nice.
Yeah.
And then we joined DVC at that time because we still had a lot of friends in Orlando. We wanted to go to the parks, and so we became DVC members at that time. Work, we've moved a lot for my job, and so we ended up in Montreal from Seattle, a little stop in between. And I don't know if it was just because of the kids' age and they're watching a lot of Disney Channel, or if Disney was doing a lot of advertising in Montreal. But our son, who was like 4 or 5 at the time, just started becoming obsessed with Disney cruises. Until we ordered the informational DVD at the time, and he would just watch it on repeat. And we were never cruise people. My wife gets motion sickness very, very easily, and so we just always kind of ruled it out. And then she came one day and said, maybe we should consider a cruise. He's just so excited about it. And so we looked into it. She found, and I don't know the name of the medicines, the little patch you put behind your ear.
Yeah.
That our doctor recommended.
Well, there's the scopolamine is the one that is the prescription one. And then there's a different one that's an over-the-counter version.
Yeah, she had the prescription one from her doctor. And so we booked a cruise. In fact, our first one was on the Disney Dream. And we went for our son's 6th birthday and just fell in love. I think anyone who takes 2 young children on a Disney cruise, they're just going to be immediately, this is the most amazing thing ever. The servers are cutting their food. Everyone's taking care of them. You get time, as adults to kind of do what you want to do. And we just thought it was a really amazing vacation. We somehow got so lucky on the cruise. I don't know how. And I don't remember how booking worked. This was 2009, I think. We walked on, immediately went to guest services and asked if there was any cabanas available on Castaway. The day we were there was our son's birthday. And she, typed on her computer for a second, said, yeah, we have one.
Wow.
We literally walked on the boat and had a cabana. I couldn't believe it. And so just that whole experience was great. And so then we booked a few others. We of course booked one while we were on that ship. Did a few more, and then we ended up moving to San Diego. And kind of didn't really think about cruising so much anymore. We were going to Disneyland a bit. We had annual passes to Disneyland. And then one day, early 2019, I was downtown San Diego, and I saw, it was either the Magic or the Wonder, I don't remember which one, sitting in port. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, Disney cruises out of San Diego? This is incredible. Literally went home, immediately went to the website and booked another cruise, and we've been kind of like nonstop ever since. COVID slowed it down. We went on a Halloween on the high seas out of San Diego, and in late 2019, COVID hit. Everything kind of paused for a while, and then as soon as it opened back up, we've been 2-3 cruises a year since then. This transatlantic was our 9th Disney cruise, and so we're hooked.
Now, how old are the kids now?
They're old now, so they're very angry about this cruise. They didn't go with us. This was our first cruise without the children.
Oh, wow.
Our daughter is just about to turn 21. She's in Northern California in college, and our son is 19. He's a freshman in college at Alabama. So we're empty nesting now. And
you are freedom.
We did this cruise without him, and then we spoiled the end. We have a cruise on the Treasure booked in November. No kids, and our son especially was very upset about that one.
Yeah. I wonder if when Nathan is that age, I'm just sort of musing, like, I wonder if when he's that age, will he want to be, like, when we book cruises without him, will he be mad about it, or will he be like, I don't care, right? Like, because there is that.
I'm upset. I was upset with my parents started booking cruises, and because they would bring me along, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're going to your school.
Yeah.
And we're going to Northern Europe. Oh, sorry, you can't make it.
Yeah. No, I think. Yeah, but I do think it can go either way, right? Because there are some, young adults or older teens who really want nothing to do with their parents, and so they're fine if or they don't want anything to do with anything Disney, right? Like they might go. They often come around, I think, but like they might go through that phase where they're just kind of like anti-parents and or anti-Disney.
Our daughter was definitely not so much anti-Disney, but I'm okay without Disney for about 2 years when she first went off to college.
Yeah.
And now she's
back
full
around.
back 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense to me. Okay, well, that explains why you were able to. I mean, they're older kids. They're not kids anymore. They're adults now. They're young adults. I keep saying kids, but they're adults. They're one of them's not even in the 1820 society anymore. Yeah. But yeah, so it makes sense why you were able to book this. But let's talk about that decision to book this cruise in particular. You're West Coast based. You got to fly quite a long ways over to Europe to catch this cruise. Why did you decide on this cruise in particular? And did you consider, a Trans-Pacific crossing, for example?
Yeah, we're definitely interested in the Trans-Pacific. I came across actually one of your guests talking about it maybe a couple of years ago is when I first started. Well, this transatlantic sounds kind of interesting. I literally would have never looked at it because it just seems like, you're just going from one place to the other. And I don't know how interesting that's going to be. When I heard about all the special activities and guests, and I was like, oh, I got to look into that. And then when I was looking, when we got our son moved into college and we were kind of thinking about what are we going to start doing without them, I immediately looked at the transatlantic. The dates were perfect. The price, I mentioned the price. The price was great. And it was going to Lisbon, which is a city we had always wanted to go to. My wife grew up in Brazil. She speaks Portuguese, and we had been to Portugal.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so that was a place that we were super interested in. I said, let's just go. Let's give it a try. We didn't know how we would feel about a 2-week long cruise, but just went ahead and booked it. And so we booked, we were like, let's make the most out of it. We spent 4 days in London beforehand and then went and boarded and then did 2 weeks. So pretty awesome.
Amazing. Okay. So, it makes sense. Obviously, you're not going to just like go there and board the ship and come back. That seems like a little wasteful of an expensive flight, right? So spend some time in London. You guys boarded in Southampton then, I'm presuming, right?
Correct,
For
yes.
that. So let's talk about that. How did you, tell us your transportation plan for getting from London to Southampton? Because I think folks are always interested to figure out like what's the best way to get there.
Yeah, we booked, and apparently a bunch of people did. So we booked almost everything on this trip, including everything we did in London, through Get Your Guide. Never had used them before. They just kind of offered the best options when I was looking at all the different, kind of Viator and all the other ones. And they had a London to Southampton transfer with a stop in Stonehenge.
Perfect.
And, it was great.
I have heard that that's a fantastic option, either on the way to the cruise or if you're, doing a round trip on the way back, to London from Southampton. The other option, of course, is doing the Harry Potter Warner Brothers Studios tour. But I do think those are both great options because it's not directly on the way, Stonehenge, but it's not a huge detour, and it's a great way to see one of the wonders of the world.
It wasn't too bad. And they picked us up right at our hotel. We didn't have to go anywhere. We were kind of lucky. I think we were the second to last pickup. So we weren't a super early pickup. And it was a big charter bus. And I think there was probably 25 of us on the bus, all of us going to the Disney Dream. So it made it easy. We made one other stop, picked some people up. And then about halfway to Stonehenge, they stopped at a rest area so we could get some snacks and drinks. Got to Stonehenge, spent maybe 2 hours there, which was fine. It was really cool to see that. The weather was really crazy. They actually had like a cyclone kind of come through England that late in the year, and it was like crazy windy and super rainy. But by the time we got to the port, it was not raining. The weather was fine, and it passed over. So it worked out really well.
Yeah. And what time was your port arrival time? I imagine you weren't sort of like rushing to get to the port because you had this excursion planned. But what time was your port arrival time, and what time did you actually arrive the port of Southampton?
The only thing, the details they lacked was sort of what time you were going to get there. So I was kind of trying to piece it together. And the best I could figure out was I think we're going to get there about 2 to 3 p.m. But when I went online and registered and picked our boarding time, I picked 1:30 just to kind of be safe, like just in case we got there early. I didn't want to sit around for a long time. And I think in the end we got there exactly 2:30. So we got off. They just immediately took our luggage from the bus. We never even saw it. We walked up to the cruise terminal. And they said, if anyone already has a port arrival time, just go ahead and go in. If your port arrival time hasn't come yet, just get in this line. And so we just walked in, checked in, and were able to board pretty easily. They had a little delay. Something went wrong with the what's the little bridge that connects the walkway that connects to the ship?
The gangway.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Something went wrong there, and they had to hold everyone for about 25 minutes or so before we could actually walk on. But other than that, it was pretty smooth. There was a lot of talk in the Facebook group that I was kind of watching where we're sitting on the bus, that people who got there right away, it was kind of chaotic. I don't know what was going on or what happened, but people were getting a little bit angry in the Facebook group there for about an hour, and then it seemed to get sorted out.
Yeah, if there was an issue with the gangway, then whoever had earlier port arrival times was probably sitting around for longer than they wanted to, right? And I think it's fairly typical that boarding over in Europe is not quite as early as it is like at Port Canaveral, right? At Port Canaveral, like you might get an 11:15 or 11:30 port arrival time, and you might be boarding the ship by noon, sometimes even earlier. I mean, just kind of depending upon how fast customs clears the ship. But like in Europe, it's usually a bit later than that. So that's not super surprising. Well, and of course they're loading the ship for a transatlantic crossing. So you got to They got to load up
it takes some
ship
time.
with,
That's a lot of stuff.
yeah, with a lot of stuff. Exactly. A lot of stuff and a lot of new passengers,
Yeah.
probably a lot more sort of turnover on the ship. Well, let's talk about, you had already been on the Dream and you mentioned that was your first ship. Now, how many of the ships have you been on? I know you said this was your 9th cruise,
Yeah.
but obviously you mentioned you have the Treasure booked, so I'm assuming you haven't been on the Treasure quite yet. But have you been on the other 5?
We have been on all of them, except for the Treasure. And so this was only our second time on the Dream. And then we've done the Magic just once, in the Wish once, and then everything else has been repeat.
Now, the Dream had just come out of dry dock, but as we sort of know from some of the, discussions we've had with some other cruisers, there wasn't a whole lot that was super noticeable for guests, I would say, on the Dream dry dock. Obviously, the Tower Suite is like the big deal thing, but unless you're going to tell me you stayed in the Tower Suite.
Yeah, noticeable only if you have $26,000
Right.
disposal, or more.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just like go out on a limb here and guess you didn't stay in the Tower Suite, Chris, or you would have volunteered that like right up front or in the notes when you contacted us about being on the show. One day, right? Exactly. But I mean, we know like they updated some of like the screens, some of the sound systems. We know that they updated some lighting, so things that like the trained eye might notice, but the average guest isn't going to notice. But you had been on the Dream many years before. Were there things you noticed, Chris?
Yeah, and I had to ask a lot to get, because you would see stuff and go like, "Is that new?" And then I would just ask a cast member, and they would tell me. And so the most notable thing was, and I forget the exact name, the Ramones taco shop that they added to the pool deck, which is kind of similar to the Donald Cantina or whatever in the Wish. By far the best food on the pool deck on the Dream. It was really good and had the longest line for sure. But it always tasted really fresh. They had the little salsa bar behind it. It was really good. So that was the one everyone knew and kind of noticed. I think the other most noticeable one was in the D Lounge. The walls, and they weren't really utilizing them, but it's a circular space, and the walls on the outside are all a screen. But they weren't really making use of it. They basically just had sort of a still image up the whole time. So you kind of didn't realize it until I was sitting in there one day going, "Oh, wait a minute, this whole thing is a screen," and they can kind of do whatever they want with it. That's pretty neat.
I wonder if they were utilizing it for bingo and stuff, because I feel like that's
a good question. We didn't do bingo on this particular sailing, yeah.
Yeah, because like bingo is in D Lounge on the 4 original or the first 4 ships. That's typically where bingo is held, and that's the biggest event. Like that's the event that's packed to the gills in D Lounge, right? And so that seems like it would be the best use of the screens.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. I know we did not sail concierge this particular sailing, but I know the concierge changes were pretty noticeable. And then outside of that, it was, a lot of little stuff, screens, lighting. I think all the carpet in the main spaces was replaced. I did ask, and someone told me it was because it all looked new. And so everything just looked pretty fresh. Though. Like obviously everything was repainted and it looked pretty good. So, I think the one that everyone wanted that they didn't do was Enchanted Garden. That was just the same. How you feel about the restaurant is kind of going to stay. But
I mean, I think we all want some updated theming for Enchanted Garden, and as Brian keeps
I would settle just rip out the
buffet, right? Just rip out. There's no reason to have that buffet still there.
Make me feel like you care about that space more than most people care about their basement. Like that's
I agree.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I forgot about the concierge updates, and we have some videos on our Instagram, some reels that show the updated concierge lounge, and that they did a really nice job on that for sure.
Yeah, it looked really nice.
Yeah, and we expect those, and they did update some of the rooms. So some of the regular rooms were converted into concierge family veranda rooms as well. But again, you wouldn't get like, those are things you only would get to see if you're staying in one of those rooms, or if you're staying concierge, you'd obviously see the updates to the lounge. Or if you're staying in the Tower Suite, then you'd get to see, that Tower Suite that was created from the funnel that was previously that Outlook Lounge. And of course the Edge was up there. Now Edge is split with Vibe, that space.
Oh yeah, and they have the new outdoor space, right? That's split between Edge and Vibe. So I didn't check that out, but I know that was new. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they updated the space. It had already been in use as part of Vibe previously, and now it flip-flops that space between Edge and Vibe, and so they made some updates to it, but it's basically the same layout. I mean, the outdoor space is the same layout, and then the indoor space is what they more divided. And so it's kind of a bummer because it seems like the tweens got the short end of the stick on the amount of space.
Right.
And the
And
tweens are the
it should have been flip-flop.
Right.
yeah, because the teens are usually roaming the ship.
Yeah,
They're
they're in
not
the
like
ship anywhere, right?
they're not like staying in one space. There's like a gaggle of teens constantly roaming the ships. For anyone who's on a Disney cruise, with the exception of really on the transatlantic or trans-Pacific crossings, because you just don't see that many kids. Period. Jumping to that topic, actually, what was the demographic like on the ship, Chris?
They told us there was about 2,800 passengers, so a little bit more than half full, which, I mean, it felt empty. I mean, anywhere you went was really easy. And I think of that, I can't remember the exact number, but it was about 250 kids.
That's a very low number.
Adults, right?
Yeah, very low number of kids for
super
a
low.
Disney ship. Yeah.
There were two kind of, the teen groups that you see whenever walking around, whenever you're on a Disney ship. There was basically two. There was a group that was under 18. There was about 8 to 10 of them that you'd always see. And then there's a group, the 18 to 20 club of about 12 of them that you'd always see as a group. And they all kind of hung out the entire cruise, which I think was probably pretty cool for them.
Yeah, they probably had actually a really great experience. And then you probably saw some toddlers, right? I mean, some
not
toddlers,
too many, but
preschoolers.
some.
Yeah.
And there was probably a little bit more. They shifted the sailing dates on this particular, in 2024, and it coincided with a break of the English school system. So I think there was a few more kids than they usually have, just because most of the kids in England were actually off school for those 2 weeks. And so the kids we had were either young or old or probably off school. And then there was a group, it was kind of neat, a group of children that were homeschooled, and they would kind of get together every day and then teach them as a group every day in one of the common spaces. I thought that was kind of neat. That was probably pretty fun for them too, to have that experience that was a little bit different than their normal day.
That is cool. Wow. That's really interesting. And then did you notice, I mean, obviously Disney is not known for having an older crowd, but I'm sure that the crowd skews a little bit older on these crossings than on your average sailing.
Yeah, a little bit. The most famous person that I remember, and I can't remember his name, I should have remembered. He joined the Facebook group and introduced himself. He was like 75, 76 years old. This was his 108th Disney cruise.
Was it Mark?
That was Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, we know him. We know Mark. We've sailed with him.
And then we went and introduced ourselves to him because I had commented on his post on Facebook. And then at one of the special events for just the Gold, Platinum, and Pearl members, they introduced someone who was much younger. I'm not going to guess her age. They said it was our 114th Disney cruise.
Wow, that's No, I had a feeling Mark would have been on that cruise. He always we've sailed on maiden voyages with him and other just sort of random sailings with him. Super nice guy. So shout out to Mark if you're listening. I don't know if you listen. He does not do podcasts himself. Like, he will not go on and a podcast himself as a guest, but super nice guy to chat with and has obviously a ton of Disney cruising experience. Well, let's jump in and talk about some of these ports, because you did get to hit a couple of ports, including, as you mentioned, Lisbon, but on the late end, you got to hit Lookout Cay on the way, back to Florida, I should say. So let's start. You leave out of Southampton. What's your first port of? Actually, how many ports of call did you have, and what was your first?
It was Vigo, Spain, and then Lisbon, Portugal, and we went to the Azores, so Ponta Delgada, and then Lookout Cay,
and then across, right? And then Lookout Cay, and then Florida, right?
And then Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, yeah. So that's actually quite. I mean, for transatlantic,
it was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So let's start with Vigo, Spain. What did you guys get up to there? Did you book a Disney excursion or an excursion privately or out on your own? What'd you guys get up to?
Yeah, we didn't book anything. We just wanted to explore the city. We had never been to Vigo. In fact, we had never been to Spain. It was both our first time in Spain. And so we just wanted to walk around and explore the city. We had done a little research beforehand. We found a place we wanted to eat lunch at. My wife is celiac, so she's always a little bit worried about just walking into a place and whether or not she'll be able to eat. And so we usually do a little research in advance to try to, just put a couple of names down of places that might look interesting. And so we went to a restaurant that we found. It was pretty good. It was kind of like a small little local place. They had some good fish. I don't eat fish, but my wife loves it. So she really enjoyed some of the local fish and had a nice lunch, and then just kind of walked around, took in the scenes before heading back to the port, did a little shopping. But otherwise, just wanted to.
I'm curious, so you mentioned resources, just we don't get into this topic super often on the podcast, but what resources do you use to sort of pre-vet the restaurants? So there more specialized resources than just going to Yelp or something?
There are a few, and I can't remember them. I know there's a website I can't remember the name of it, like gluten-free guide or something like that, that I know she goes to. And it's kind of like Yelp, where people submit reviews of restaurants that might be a little bit more friendly for that. She uses Instagram more than anything else. So she'll just go out and search, gluten-free Vigo, Spain, and then she just gets tons of reels and posts and starts to kind of catalog all these places. And then we might, 5 or 6 will kind of float their way to their top, and then we'll go individually kind of research those ones and see what stands out.
Cool. That's actually really smart. I mean, and great, I think, information for anyone with, food allergies. That's a great way to, consider researching, even if you're not going to do an excursion, like do some research on some restaurants so that you can eat safely if you want to get off the ship. Because obviously we've talked a lot on the show, and we'll talk about that later, but we know on board Disney Cruise Line is great about that stuff. But we also know that when you're out in Europe or anywhere, really, even in the US, it can be pretty hit or miss as to how good a restaurant is with food allergies, as a general matter.
Yeah. And I think, it's another reason why I think Disney stuck so well to us. They take such good care of her food allergy, and it's just not a problem whatsoever, that she just feels very comfortable. She knows she's not going to, get accidentally glutened and kind of ruin her day.
Get it gluten. Yeah. I kind of like that as a verb, get accidentally glutened.
Yeah, it happens. It just ruins her whole day. I mean, she needs to go lay down. And she can't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm picturing Marshall from How I Met Your Mother with his lawyer, just glutened.
Let's jump to Lisbon. It sounds like Lisbon was one of the places you were probably most looking forward to. You mentioned your wife is Brazilian, so she's a native Portuguese speaker. What did you guys get up to in Lisbon?
This was another one we just wanted to explore the city, and so we had a few kind of highlights that we wanted to do. We both read this. I can't remember the name of the book. I'm terrible with names.
You're in good company, my friend.
Yeah, very good.
Brian is also terrible with names. Yeah.
We both read this historical...
What's your name again? We live together. Yeah.
We both read this historical fiction novel that was set in Lisbon, like in the 1600s, and it had to do with the coffee trade and all that kind of stuff. And so we really wanted to go get some coffee. And so we found a place pretty close to the port that we went to, and great coffee. Nothing but good things. It was one of the best coffees I ever had, actually. I think it was called Fabrica Cafe or something like that. But my wife was super excited to be in Portugal and speak some Portuguese. And we go in, and the barista takes her order, and my wife kind of gives me a look. And then I just ordered in English. And so she replied to me, and she was from New York. So the first person she interacts with wasn't even Portuguese.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Great. But we had great coffee.
Then the New Yorker starts talking to you in English. Yeah.
So Chris, I have to ask, I'm a big fan of historical fiction. I love to do that thing that you did where it's like, let me read a book about a city I'm going to. Do you remember the name of the book?
I cannot remember for the life of me, because we both read it quite a long time ago. And the character is in a series of historical fiction. Most of them are in London. But then this one kind of branched down to Lisbon. And so it sets for a cool, when you see things that are mentioned in the book, it kind of makes for a fun experience. I had a great time in London because I've been listening to another podcast called This Is History. And it goes through the whole, from basically the founding of London and when England was first formed up until I'm in the middle of 1300s right now. And so just to see all the sites that are in this, this history and these stories is really fun and cool. Westminster Abbey, Tower of London, and all that stuff. So.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Love that.
Anyway, we got coffee started off. One thing that was awesome about Lisbon, and I have no idea about the scheduling and complications of scheduling ports for cruise lines, but we were in Lisbon from, let me check. I think we were all ashore at 8 a.m. and the all aboard wasn't until 9 p.m.
Oh, wow.
And so
That's
13 hours to explore Lisbon. Yeah, it's super awesome. And so we got right off right away, got our coffee, and we just loved having that much time to explore the city. One, because we were so excited about it, but two, because you just don't get there very often to have more. Sometimes you got to be back by 3-4 o'clock. You feel a little cut off.
Well, and if you want to stick around for dinner, or hit up a bar, even. I mean,
exactly.
Even obviously early bar time, but still 9 is that's plenty of time to do all that.
Yeah. So then we headed over to Belém and to check out the Belém Tower. We went to Pasta de Belém and got the pasta de natas. We chose that. I think they both had gluten-free. Oh, no, they did not have gluten-free ones. That was the issue.
That's a bummer.
So we had to go somewhere. Now I remember. Between coffee and Belém, my wife randomly found a place on Yelp that had some gluten-free ones. So she went in and bought a couple of gluten-free.
Yeah, because that's like their famous like pastry that they're known for. Yeah.
The
So
egg custard pastry.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice. We just kind of explored that area for a little while. We just took an Uber over there. That was easy and fast. And then we headed over. I got super excited about a place I'd found for lunch. It was called Ark, Arkhe. And I just randomly found it on the Michelin-guide. I was looking for something we definitely wanted like a food highlight in Lisbon. And we wanted to do something a little different, not traditional. And so this was a vegetarian restaurant, and we're not vegetarian, but it looked super interesting. And so we go over there, we go in, and it's, I don't know what day it was, a Tuesday, Wednesday. So it was pretty empty. It was lunchtime. So it was great. We sit down and they said, are there any food allergies? And we had, to be fair, when I booked the reservation, it did ask if there's any food allergies. And I said, yes. And I just said, it was all in Portuguese. I had to show my wife, and she said, oh, they're just saying they can't guarantee that they can accommodate the food allergy. And I said, well, do you want to try? She said, yeah, let's give it a try. I'm sure that they're just being careful. And so we get there, we say that, my wife's celiac, and they're like, oh, this is a disaster. We can't really accommodate you. Let me go talk to the chef. And I'm like, oh no, like I was so looking forward to this. And he comes out after talking to the chef. He's like, yeah, he really doesn't think that he can do anything for you. And my wife was just like super awesome. Real trooper here, because she knew how much I wanted to try this place. And so she said, well, can I just order a la carte? Because it was a tasting menu. Because a few of these things look gluten-free. So could I just order a la carte and I'll be fine. It's not a big deal. He said, hold on, let me go talk to the chef. So he goes back and comes in. He goes, okay, we don't normally do that, but he said it's okay. So if you just want to order one thing, that's totally fine. We're like, okay, perfect. And so I went hog wild. I got the full tasting menu with the wine pairing.
7 course, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah, give me everything. I was like, this is great. I'm so excited.
Your wife is very understanding.
Yeah, she was great. She was really awesome. Because I said, well, do you want to, do you just want to go find somewhere else? I don't want you to have a bad experience. And she said, no, let's just stick it out. And so, they're just bringing me course after course. And while they're bringing me courses, I think they figured out a few of them they could actually do gluten-free really easily. And so they brought her some extra courses that she didn't order that I don't think we ever even paid for. And so they really took care of us. They were giving her wine, even though I was the only one that ordered wine pairing. And just a really,
and she didn't get glutened? Please tell me.
No, she didn't. Yeah, didn't get glutened.
Oh, good.
And in fact, when they brought her one entree that she ordered, he made like a extra large portion of it instead of just the normal tasting.
Instead of a tasting portion. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So that she could actually like have some, real food. And awesome experience. Like for me, top 5 meal of my life. Incredible food. The wine pairings were really interesting. Like it wasn't just like, here's like a fancy wine that will pair well with this food. It was like, here's a wine with no sulfites. Here's a wine with a lot of acid. And this is why we're pairing it with the food. And you could really see how it kind of accentuated the flavors or changed it. And so for me, just, great meal. One of the highlights of the trip for sure. Like I said, one of my top meals of all time.
That sounds awesome.
I would absolutely go back.
Yeah. And great that they even though they said they couldn't accommodate, great that they did accommodate too. I love that.
Super great.
Are you listening to our show because you want to make the most out of your next vacation? Great news. The fabulous team over at My Path Unwinding Travel can help guide you so you don't miss a thing. Their team of professional travel advisors are caring, knowledgeable, and experienced. It's why we use them to book our own travel. My Path Unwinding Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, which means they are recognized by Disney for their expertise and service. They have sailed on all the Disney ships, including in concierge, visited the theme parks, adventured with Disney, relaxed at Aulani, and so much more. Whether it's a Disney cruise, a theme park vacation, or Adventures by Disney, or if you are looking to expand beyond the mouse, My Path Unwinding Travel will elevate your next vacation planning experience. Even if you have already booked, reach out for a complimentary consultation to make your vacation even more magical. Ready to talk to the experts? Head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. Thanks, My Path Unwinding, for sponsoring today's show. Now back to the episode.
We spent the afternoon just kind of exploring the city, doing a little shopping. That was a lot of fun. And then we had dinner. We had reservations at a speakeasy.
Cool.
Called Red Frog. And so we went over there. We couldn't find the place, right? It's hidden. There's no instructions when I made the reservation. Yeah.
That's the thing about a speakeasy.
And we're literally just walking back and forth on the block. I'm going, it's got to be here somewhere. I don't know where it is. And then 2 other Americans come and they're looking for the same place. And so we're all 4 of us are just walking around asking random people, and everyone's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then someone walks out of another bar, like an employee walks out of another bar, and we ask him, "Okay, we're looking for this red frog," and he goes, "Oh, it's here." And it's not. There's no sign. It's not labeled. It's literally like a secret bar in part of another bar.
In a bar, yeah, a bar in a bar. Oh my goodness!
So he goes, "I'll go get the person for you." And so the hostess comes out and takes her name and sees our reservation, takes us in. And so really cool cocktail bar, a lot of really interesting cocktails, and they had some small plates, so we had some really good just little small plate appetizers while we were there. Got a little carried away and barely made it back to the boat in time. This was really close. And it was just 4 other Americans came in, sat down next to us, and we just started talking.
We were
the same age. Yeah, their husbands were off somewhere. They had gone shopping and gone to this bar. And then I looked down, and I had it all figured out, right? We were like 20 minutes from the port. I'm like, we'll leave at 8 o'clock, right? It gives us an hour, no big deal. And so 8 o'clock hits. I'm like, okay, we got to go. I grab our server, ask for the bill, brings over the bill, give him my debit card. My debit card declines. My bank locked it because I forgot to tell him I was traveling.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, no.
So I was like, oh, shoot,
goodness.
no problem. Let me just give you my credit card, which I probably should have used anyway. And then his little credit card machine froze and locked up.
Oh, my
And he was
goodness.
like, I have to go get another one. So he's gone for like 10 minutes. He brings back a new machine or fixed it or whatever. So I finally pay the bill, order an Uber, and I'm kind of watching. I'm like, okay, we're cutting it a little bit close. Like the Uber is going to get here about 8:20, but we still should be fine, right? We got to get through security. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. And so the Uber's arriving, and I haven't looked at anything other than the Uber's, 5 minutes away or whatever. I haven't looked at what kind of car it is or where it's stopping. And so I see I'm like, okay, it's about 5 minutes away. Let's head out to the curb. And we stand up and I look at my phone. Now I'm going to see what's the car that's picking us up and where is it stopping. And all I see is it's not stopping in front of the bar. It's trying to orient myself because it's on one of the other blocks. We either have to turn left or right and go to the corner. And I see it's a white Tesla. And then my phone dies. My battery died. I went,
oh my God, Chris,
oh, no.
you're making me so anxious right now.
Yeah. And I went, oh no. And so at this point, we're outside on the sidewalk, and my wife is my wife's a social butterfly. She just thrives on interactions with people. And she's met 2 other people on the sidewalk, and she's just chatting away. And I'm going, what am I going to do? And so I'm like, okay, I think she uses my Uber account. Let me just grab her phone.
Yes. So you know what's funny? I use Brian's Uber account too. So I don't have my own.
It's why my rating is so degraded. Yeah.
That's why your rating is so good, Brian. Yeah. No, I have my own Lyft account, but I use Brian's Uber account. So.
Yeah. And I don't know why I think we just set it up like that for whatever reason, because I already had everything attached to the account. And
it's probably, if you use Uber Eats, it's why. That's why.
That might have been why. Yeah,
because then you can both add food to the same cart, right?
Yep.
That's why we do it. That's literally the only reason. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
She can't even, she's so engaged in this conversation with these that I just need your phone.
Your wife is me, Chris.
Yeah, I just need your phone. And she just doesn't even look at me and just hands me your phone. And so I turn it on, and she hasn't used Uber in so long that the app had been auto-deleted from her phone. I was like, oh no. And so I start downloading it. And I'm like, maybe we should just try to grab a cab, but there are none. And then I'm worried like it's going to cancel because we haven't gone to the car. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just need to order a new one on hers. But I'm waiting for it to download. It's taking forever. And then finally I just said, okay. And then I look up at the intersection to my left.
And there's the Tesla.
There's 2 white Teslas.
Oh, so one of them. Okay, so it's one of them.
One turns left. One goes straight past me and turns right. And so they're at either way. And I have to make, it's a coin flip. I'm like, okay, we're going left. And I grab my wife, Sarah. I'm like, we got to go. And I just chose left. We went down. We see the white Tesla pulled over on the sidewalk. And so she walks up to the window and says in Portuguese, "Are you waiting for Chris?" And he said, "Yeah, I was just about to leave." And we're like, "Oh, thank goodness." And we climb in, explain my phone died and everything. And he goes, "Okay, no problem. We'll go." It's about 8:30, right? It's about a 15, 20 minute ride. And it's 8:30 to 30 minutes. And so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm like, okay, we should be fine. And he gives me super nice guy, gives me a cable to plug my phone in. And we head off on our way. I plug in my phone. It gets enough charge where I can turn it back on. And I'm looking. And the first thing I notice is Uber tells me our ETA is 9:05. And we're stuck in traffic now. Like we just stopped and we're not moving. And so now I'm going, oh no, what do we do? And I'm on Google Maps. I'm like, maybe we should just get out and run. And Google Maps says like, maybe we'll just barely make it. Like walking, we'll maybe walk and get there by 9 o'clock. And so my wife says to him, and she said, we got to be there by 9. And Uber says we're going to be there 9:05. Should we just get out and run? And the guy said, I'll get you there. I promise. I don't know why there's traffic, but I'll get you there. And so we were like, okay, I guess we'll trust him. And we're still stuck in traffic. And then we see there was an accident. A bus had hit a car. And so that had traffic all backed up. And the streets are tiny, right? Like these little tiny streets, you can't get by it. And so he turns and he just hauls. He's going so fast, gets us to the port about 8:45.
Wow.
And so we get out.
Fast.
Yeah, he went really, really fast. And so we get out. There's no one. The port's empty, right? There's nobody there. There's like 2 security guards. We just run through security. And I think we had bought 3 or 4 bottles of wine while we were shopping to take back on the boat with us. So we run through security and we get to the gangway. And I'm like, okay, we're going to make it. We don't have to run anymore. And boarded the boat. And I looked at my phone. It was like 8:48. I was, holy cow. And I said to the cast member, and I don't know if he was trying to be funny. I was trying to be funny. And maybe he didn't read it like that. I said, are we the last ones on? And he goes, well, there's no award for being last one on. And I said, yeah, I know.
You're like,
relieved.
Yeah, relieved that you got on. My goodness. Oh my gosh.
That was the closest call we ever had.
Yeah, that is totally scary. That is.
One thing that was weird, when we boarded, they didn't even look in our bag. And I know you can take wine on, but we could have had bottles of alcohol, and they didn't like take them from us to hold them. They never even looked.
Oh, interesting. And you didn't have to put them through the
so
what's it called? The belt?
We did in security, but normally when most of the time when you get on and off the ship, it's deck 1 or 2 or whatever when you go down. This was on the main entrance on deck 4 deck 4, right?
Oh, interesting. So they didn't
have like a metal detector thing set up. Yeah.
Oh,
they just had the little kiosk with the tap your magic key,
band
or your magic band. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's a close call. I wouldn't recommend that. All right. Let's jump to the Azores or Azores. I don't know how to say it correctly. But obviously that's right before you're going to sort of head across the Atlantic. So that's your last stop before many, many days at sea. Tell us what you guys got up to there.
Yeah. So here we did book a tour, and again, through Get Your Guide. And it was like an island ATV tour. So we knew when we looked, we just kind of wanted to see the sights. It's like, going to Norway or Alaska or Hawaii, you really just kind of want to see the natural beauty. And so we had booked this tour on an ATV, ride around and see all the cool stuff. They have that, I forget the Sechi Dadaji or whatever, the lake that's 2 different colors where it's split, some cool stuff like that. And again, that was all we had done. And I didn't think too much about it. And then we were getting off the ship in the morning. It's an early morning tour. And I thought, when I looked in advance of the cruise, that the check-in was like right at the pier. And so we're eating breakfast, we're getting ready to get off. And I'm like, well, let me just double check where this is. And it's like 20 minutes away. And I went, oh, I don't know how we're going to get there. It's a Sunday. There's probably no Ubers on this little tiny island. I don't have any cash. I certainly don't have any euros. And my debit card's been frozen. So I can't get cash. What the heck are we going to do? And I'm like, okay, no problem. I use my wife's debit card. I'm sure there's an ATM at the port. We'll grab some cash, find a taxi. We'll be on our way. We get off. I go to the ATM machine. I say to my wife, hey, I need your debit card. And she said, I didn't bring my debit card. She goes, you didn't tell me to bring anything.
Communication,
Chris. No. Yeah, I never did tell her. And so then I went, okay, let's see what we can do. I mean, we're off the ship. And so we find a taxi stand. It's kind of far, a little bit of drama because we're at the taxi stand. A taxi stops across the street, and there's people in front of us waiting for taxis, but no one goes across the street. So I'm like, well, let's just walk across the street and see if any of these taxis take card. We had no intention of like taking this taxi from someone. So we cross the street. My wife starts talking to the driver. I said, do you take cards? He said, no. Does anyone take cards? I said, no. And then meanwhile, the people, and they were from the Disney ship, so we felt kind of bad, started yelling at us that we were stealing their taxi. And I'm trying to explain, like, we're not trying to take it. We're just trying to find out if we can pay.
Trying to find out if anybody can pay in cards.
I'm opening the door. I'm like, come on, come get in. You can have this taxi. And so, that all resolves. They take the taxi and we're like, oh, great. What are we going to do? There's no way we can get to this place. I said, well, let me try calling them. I don't think they're open. It says they open at 9. It's like 8:30 or whatever. So we try calling and no one answers, no surprise. And I said, well, let's write this off. We're not going to do this. Let's go back to the port where all the people were to like sell their little tours, and let's just find one that's similar and we'll just pay and do that. So we go over, and my wife was negotiating in Portuguese on several different tours. They're going, it's a long negotiation. And my phone rings, and the number is the Azores. And so I quickly grab her. I said, I think this is the tour company. And by now, it's like 9:10. The tour we were supposed to be there at 9. And so she answers the phone. Sure enough, it's them. And she explains, we just couldn't get a taxi. We know we're late. It's okay if you just go without us. And I'm piecing together because I can understand a little Portuguese, having been with her this long. And they're asking where we are. And she explains we're at the port. And they said, well, we do have like a sales desk. It's about 100 yards down the road. Just go there. We'll come get you. And I thought, oh, great. And so we stopped negotiating. We walked down there, find the little sales desk. We just sit down and they come pick us up in a van. The guy's super nice. He's like, that's no problem. Don't worry about it. We're not leaving. Not everyone's not ready to leave anyway. We'll just run you over there. We'll get you going and it shouldn't really delay things. So he runs us over to the place. We get our ATV. We get on. The people that we had the little taxi interaction with were there on the same exact tour as us.
That's funny.
They're all like kind of waiting for us.
A little awkward.
Yeah. But the guy was so nice that, we do our tour. It's awesome, right? We do an ATV tour of the whole island. We see the lakes. We go down to the lake, get some coffee, go through a little village. It was really, really fun. I go through a lot of farms. It was a really, really fun way to see the island just on ATV with just my wife and I. And then we get back and the same guy that picked us up in the van said, well, do you want me to give you a ride back to town? And we thought, well, sure. Yeah, that'd be great. And so we ended up not having to get any taxis. They just kind of ferried us back and forth, felt like VIP service. But we did feel a little bad because he didn't wait for anyone. I was like, well, I'm sure all these other people are going back to the city. He's got this huge van. Like we could take other people. He was just like, no, get in, let's go. It was just the two of us.
He's like, screw those other people who yelled at you over the text cab the first time. We're going. That's funny. That's funny.
They're all waiting for taxis or they had a call and arrange. And we're back to town. Now, there wasn't much to do in town that day. We walked around and just kind of checked things out. But it was a Sunday afternoon. Pretty much everything was closed. There was a few like little stores open, but not much going on in town. But
yeah. Well, and that's the thing about like, small towns in certain parts of Europe that are, usually very Catholic. And so, they everything kind of does shut down on Sunday. Well, let's jump to Lookout Cay, because obviously you'd been to Castaway multiple times. This was your first time to Lookout Cay. It's obviously your last port of call. But as we mentioned, we skipped over all of the days at sea. We'll ask you a couple highlights from the days at sea, but we're obviously spending more of our time on the ports on this show. And we do have some other shows that we did with folks who have done the transatlantic and talked about some of those onboard experiences. But I want to ask you about Lookout Cay because, like I said, it was your first time going there. What were your impressions and what did you all get up to on Eleuthera?
Yeah, overall, we really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful island. And we went in going, this is going to be our beach day, right? It was my wife's birthday that day that we were on the island. This is just going to be our total relaxation
Even better.
beach day.
Birthday,
It was perfect. And so we were looking forward to just really taking advantage of the beach. First of all, the walk. Come on, not a big deal. I don't know. So many people made such a big deal out of the walk. Now, we were there in November. It wasn't super hot. It was not a big deal. And we even at Castaway, we don't normally take the tram and we'll just walk to the beach. I don't think it was that much longer than getting to the tram stop at Lookout. So the walk for us, not a big deal. We just kind of walked around the main part of the island there, checked things out, went to a couple stores, and then found some chairs on the beach, just right in between kind of where it's Serenity Bay there as well, right? Where the adult beach starts. Yeah. So right kind of on the border of the adult beach and the family beach. And we were up above the berm, which was still nice, but we wanted to be down on the ocean, but we didn't get off. We didn't wake up super early. We weren't the first ones on the island. So all those little chairs on the actual beach on the water were taken. But it wasn't a big deal. We just kind of relaxed until lunchtime, had lunch, and then everyone left. And so we went down to the water and like literally all the chairs were open. I think it was us and like two other people for as far as we could see. And everyone had gone back to the ship for some reason.
I wonder, did you have no sea day after Lookout?
No, yeah, exactly. It was Lookout and then Fort Lauderdale was the next day.
Yeah. So people were heading back to pack up their stuff.
I think so,
they could, so that they could maybe like relax at dinner, maybe go to the show that night, that sort of a thing. I think that's the hard part when you have, especially on a longer cruise, because you got a lot. Got a lot of stuff, right? Yeah, you got souvenirs and you've got more clothes than you do on a shorter cruise and all of that. Yeah. Well, so then the beach is empty. Did you guys move down to the chairs?
Yeah, and so we went right down to the water. Yeah. And that is beautiful, beautiful beach. You can't describe how pretty that beach and ocean is. And just really love just sitting there and just kind of with our feet in the water and just kind of enjoying the waves and the peace. And I think when you go in with that expectation, like, we're just going to enjoy the beach and the water. Like, I think it's great. I do, ideally, I would like some more stuff to do. Like I would pick Castaway over Lookout just because it has more stuff to do. But I kind of get why, like, you can't do, or I don't think you could do a pelican plunge kind of area because it's not in a calm bay,
right. It's not a protected cove. Yeah, exactly.
So
you can't do that. And then also because of the coral reefs and stuff, because of all the preservation, they really can't do some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, they tried to do some of that, like with Rush Out, Gush Out.
Right.
Like
it's on land. Yeah.
I actually think that, like, today, I think your assessment's correct. I think give it a year or two, and the number of It depends on what kind of day.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what kind of day you're going for, right? If you want the like private experience, castaway-like experience, then this won't matter, right? But if you're looking for like, I want to do something while I'm here,
Mhm.
I think there'll be a lot more excursions down the line, including like things that they don't do at Castaway because they think, I don't know if it's they can't or they just won't, but like you can't really scuba dive at Castaway, but we'd heard that like there's a provider there that's doing snorkeling that does scuba diving. So I would be surprised to see a scuba diving excursion at some point, which would be really cool. So
and I'm a diver. I would have loved a diving experience. I wouldn't have done it this particular trip because it was my wife's birthday and I wouldn't have wanted, she doesn't dive.
And your first, it was our first time. Exactly. You want to spend the time on the beach and your first time, I think, there. But I think you're right. Like, I think there will be more once the excursions are once like more of the island or more of the private spaces sort of built out or more complete, not it's obviously might never be sort of complete, but once it's sort of more built out, then they can, do some more of the excursions, some boating excursions, things like that you have on Castaway that you don't right now have at Lookout. I think those will help.
My only gripe, which I haven't heard mentioned, everybody talked about the flies. Flies weren't really an issue. We saw a couple, but it wasn't a big deal. My only gripe that I haven't heard mentioned was, and maybe we were just unlucky and we went at the wrong time. So my wife has to pre-order her food the day before, and we went to 2 We went over there, and it wasn't that busy or anything. I waited in line for a little bit. She ordered her food, and there was not enough seating. There were no tables to sit at. And with the ship being like half full, I was shocked that there was like nowhere to sit. And I don't know if like everyone just went to get their lunch at that time.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, how did Disney not plan on like enough tables? And so we had to like just kind of walk around and stand there for about 5 minutes before someone left.
The pro tip is to go to True, not to True
so we're
2.
At 2. Yeah.
Yes. So True 2 is the one that is closer to the majority of the family beach, but also pretty close to Serenity Bay, right? And so that's the one that is more crowded. The True that's sort of towards where the kids club area is. That one is less crowded typically. So but that is odd but maybe you're right. Maybe people just happen to get lunch all at the same time.
Could have been unlucky timing for us, but
yeah. And that, prime time is always crowded, even at Castaway, right?
Yeah.
Like once it hits noon, from like noon to 1, it's crowded. If you go before noon, it's not too bad. If you go after 1, it's not too bad. Yeah. All right. Well, let's hit a couple of highlights from the onboard experience. I mentioned at the top of the show, these longer sailings often have special guests or special performances. I'm curious, Chris, I know there were, but what were maybe give us like your top 3 experiences on board for this sailing.
They did. So just for gold, pearl, and platinum members, they did. And they do this on some sailings. I think a certain length where they do like a special event. In this one, and he was a special guest for the entire ship. They had Ducky Williams, the Disney artist, and he had done the lithograph for that sailing. And then he came and just for the gold, platinum, pearl, he kind of told his story, which is an incredible story. I had never heard it before. I wasn't familiar with him, but when they announced he was there, people went nuts. Like he obviously obviously is
he did the same talk on the maiden voyage for the treasure.
Oh, okay,
He did 2 different talks, but they were open to everybody. But it was his story of how he became a Disney artist.
Perseverance to become a Disney artist is incredible.
Incredible story, right?
I was just blown away by him, and so we encountered him a few times on the ship and talked to him. Again, super nice guy. And then you could go back later and get your lithograph autograph by him. So they had like special times for each deck.
Oh, nice!
And so we
did not
got
do
his autograph
that for
later.
us.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. So it's in our bedroom right now. The lithograph that he did autographed by him. They had Broadway star Michelle Knight. She had done a number of Broadway shows. I think her biggest one was Disenchanted, where she had actually been nominated for a Tony. But she did a whole Broadway performance in the theater one night, where she did a bunch of Disney songs plus other Broadway songs that I thought she was phenomenal. She did an adult-only performance one night in Evolution. It was great. We just happened to get there, and there was one table left right next to the stage. And so my wife and I sat down. She kept kind of like singing directly to us.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which was really pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the other one was, and again, I'm terrible with names. I cannot remember his name. There was a chef that was doing the Anyone Can Cook series, like every morning in the D Lounge. Again, I don't remember his name, but he was like a pastor of positivity. This guy was just full of energy. It packed out. Like you had to get there an hour before to get in line. Otherwise, it was that capacity. capacity and no one else could get in. And so his little demonstrations of some of the stuff to cook was pretty fun. Although I noticed, they hand out the little recipe cards. And what he did not follow the recipe card almost at all. And so we got home and we wanted to make one of the dishes. And I was like, this is not what he did.
Oh my God. That's
so I'm
hilarious.
like kind of impromptu trying to remember what he did and changing it a little bit.
Yeah. You got to take notes, I guess, and like kind of, you know.
Very, very entertaining and just super, super positive. So he was really great.
I love that.
Those were probably the top three that I really remember. I think if I had to pick a fourth, there were two pianists on board, Christine, can't remember last name, and Ellis.
Did they do the dueling pianos?
So yeah, dueling pianos.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And one person, so everyone does their suggestions. Somebody suggested the Phineas and Ferb theme song, which Ellis did. And the place is packed out, right? Evolution is packed out. Everyone's singing the theme song as he's playing. It was really kind of a fun experience.
Oh my
really
goodness. Cool. We would be singing along totally.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Chris, I'm curious, before I subject you to Sam's rapid fire round, I'm just curious, would you do this sailing again, or is this a one and done?
I would 100% do it again. In fact, we talked about doing it this year, but it got moved. So one, I didn't like the itinerary quite as much, but then they moved I think they extended the dry dock for the Fantasy.
Or they moved the dry dock. They moved it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was before it was straddling September and October, and then they moved it fully into October.
Yeah. Okay. So my wife and I need to be in Florida for a conference on November 8th. And so that we wouldn't have been able to attend that conference. And so that just happened to align. Again, I mentioned we're going to sail on the Treasure. We just happened to get off the Treasure on the 8th. And then we're just going to go down to West Palm Beach for our conference. So that lines up pretty nice. So we're going to do that instead this year, but I'll definitely look at it in 2026.
Awesome. Nice. I love that.
Well, it sounds like an amazing cruise. I mean, I love the back-to-back sea days. That would just be like my dream. And I got to say, we've had several people come on the show and talk about their transatlantic sailings. You by far have some of the most interesting port experiences. I mean, setting aside the whole saga, but like, speakeasy bar, dinner off the ship, very
Michelin star restaurant.
I love that. Taking full advantage of those ports. That's just, that's great. So I really hope folks listening out there took some notes, because that would be the way that I would love to do some of these port experiences. So that's fantastic. And glad you had a great time at Lookout. So yeah, sounds like an amazing cruise. But I think we have reached that point in the show where I need to hand you back over to Sam for some arbitrary questions, some arbitrary rules, and a dash of judgment of the round we know as rapid fire. Sam,
I'm nervous.
All right, Chris. I'm going to, you should be nervous. No, don't be nervous. I'm joking. All right, well, let's start with some Disney favorites. Who is your favorite Disney character?
I have a soft spot for Mickey. Mickey's just been one of my favorites for all time, but my icon or whatever in all the Disney apps is Mr. Incredible. Something about Mr. Incredible I just love.
Awesome. All right, your favorite Disney movie?
Probably Aladdin. Moana's close. Moana's really close, but probably Aladdin.
Both great picks. All right, favorite Disney song?
I Am Moana.
Yes, so good. Okay, favorite Disney Cruise Line stage show?
Okay, this is real tight. It's so Beauty and the Beast. I don't remember seeing Beauty and the Beast in our first sailing on the Dream. I'm sure we did, but I just don't remember it. So we did see it this sailing. It was on the last night. It was incredible. The other one in contention was Tangled on the Magic, which just blew us away. Especially the actress who was from Broadway that played Mother Gothel. She was ridiculously good. But I think it's probably Beauty and the Beast. I just think the stage setup and everything they did, I just thought was incredible.
I mean, you said all the right things, Chris. You're speaking my love language right now, because that Tangled show is incredible. And if you get a great cast and a great Mother Gothel, which usually Mother Gothel is a Broadway visiting artist, so generally speaking, that person is incredible. Yeah, I mean, that's a tight race, with honorable mention to Frozen as well, which is also an incredible production. But Beauty and the Beast takes the cake until you get on the Treasure.
And then I'm very excited about Moana.
And then, especially if Moana is one of your top two Disney movies, be prepared. That's all I'll say. All right. What is your favorite onboard activity on a Disney cruise?
I think what we enjoy more, it's wherever we can relax. So we did a lot of time in the rainforest room on this sailing. Really enjoyed the rainforest room, but it's probably when we just go get a cocktail before dinner, or maybe after dinner in one of the spaces. We usually like the pub, whatever the pub is on board, or Meridian.
Love that. Well, and of course you get Meridian on the Dream and the Fantasy. Yeah. So that's the best bar. If you're on the Dream class, it's definitely Meridian. All right. Favorite rotational dining?
1923.
Oh, interesting.
I
That's
like
a
the
little bit of
little,
a hot take.
So I didn't explain when I got so into Disney. My degree's in animation. I was an artist for a few years. Really love all the kind of art history. Now I'm more in management and in production. But everything that's in 1923 kind of takes me back, a lot of that nostalgia. So I think I like that about it.
Well, you're going to really like 1923 on the Treasure then as well, because it's the same but different, right? They've got different curios and stuff in it's really good. Okay, Aqua Dunk, Aqua Duck, Aqua Mouse. Which one is the best?
Aqua Mouse is third, unfortunately. It's too short. Aqua Dunk would be second. I like the little thrill, but again, it's pretty short. And Aqua Duck is the best out of the three.
All right, good answer. I like it. Okay, I need a favorite sweet item and a favorite savory item on board a Disney cruise. Let's start with the sweet.
The Grand Marnier souffle.
All right, and saving the best for last, what's your favorite savory item?
It's got to be the lasagna Apollo Brunch.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, that's a Brian favorite. So yeah, I mean, I'm the chicken parm, but that lasagna is a close second in Paulo. Yeah. All right. Very controversial question. Which one is your favorite ship? Knowing that you have not yet been on the Treasure, so you can't answer with the Treasure, but which one is your favorite?
I'm sure it's going to be the Treasure. And I love the original, the Magic and the Wonder. We've sailed the Wonder, I think, more than anything else. And we're sailing that is again in 6 weeks. But I won't apologize for it. It's the Wish. The things that a lot of people don't like. I love all the little different spaces and the different experiences that I can get at the pool deck. Food is by far the best. So yeah, I really like the Wish. So I'm pretty sure it'll be the Treasure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If favorite is the Wish right now, and you're a parks person, the Treasure is going to just blow your mind. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear you. You're going to come back, Chris. I'm telling you right now, but I'm already previewing this. You must come back after the Treasure. Because I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But okay, last question of rapid fire, your bucket list cruise. You can go anywhere in the world on a Disney ship. It doesn't have to be someplace that Disney Cruise Line goes. And you know what? It could be you can go on the Wish even. It doesn't matter what ship, your favorite ship, anywhere in the world. Where are you going?
Yeah, there's still a bunch they do that I want to do. The Across the Pacific, when they get the ship in Japan, that's going to be pretty cool. We'll definitely go sail that. But I wish they did. That's when they didn't do that on purpose. I wish they did Eastern or Northern Mediterranean. Like I want to do Italy and Croatia. I would love to do that. And I know some of the other cruise lines do, and maybe one day we'll have to do another cruise line. But I wish Disney did a Croatia, Italy kind of part of the Med, because that I think would be my number one.
I feel like they had a sailing that stopped in Dubrovnik.
No, I think that's only the ABD, Brian.
Yeah,
is it?
I think so.
Which they killed this year. They're not doing it anymore. So
no, they
the private.
Oh yeah, the Adriatic. You're right.
The Adriatic cruise got killed.
Yeah, it's not on. At least it's not. They haven't released.
It's not offered this year. Yeah, it could go the way of the private jet tour that they. I mean, I think that they moved to
every other year.
Every other year, I think, or something
like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, A++, Chris, you passed with like flying colors.
Wow.
So I don't know what you were so nervous about. Yeah, I don't know. Now, you mentioned you've got something coming up in just a few weeks. You're going out of San Diego, I presume, on the Wonder?
We are, yeah. So we live in San Diego. I don't know if I said that. Oh, yeah, I did. And so we're doing just a 3-night on the Wonder in about 6 weeks. I only booked it maybe 3 weeks ago. The main thing was, hey, we need our 10th cruise because then we're platinum. And so let's grab one of these sailings before it heads up to Alaska. I'm very excited about a full-time Southern California ship. Let's get that going. I know that they asked for a port there in Catalina. And funny enough, we've lived here for 10 years now. We've never gone to Catalina. I can literally see it on a nice day from my house. And we've never gone, so we'll check out Catalina and do that sailing. I went to do a reservation. Like I said, we just booked it a few weeks ago. And we got Prima Notte night 1 and we got Palo night 3. I couldn't get brunch, but I couldn't believe I was able to get those 2 things. And we're going to try to get Palo night 2 when we board the boat and just do Palo the entire trip.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great way to
We'll
go.
see.
I will tell you, I think people just don't really know what Prima Notte is.
I
mean, we've been evangelizing it on this show because we think it's such a fabulous experience, but I think people don't know what it is. And I think there is a hesitancy to, like, people think, oh, if I'm going to do that, it's instead of dinner. And I would tell them, no, you don't have to do it instead of dinner. You do it before or after dinner, and still go to dinner.
We did it on the transatlantic, and we went to main dining. We just got an appetizer, and then we went to Prima Notte. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand wanting to go to main dining on night one to meet your servers and all of that. So I personally am of that mindset. I like to meet the servers night one. But yeah, I think you can still go to Prima Notte, especially if you've got, for us, like we like to do late dining. So I like to go to Prima Notte and then go to late dining, and then I can, adjust my food.
We always do. The biggest battle in the household is we always do early dining because I'm the one who books everything. And my wife hates it. She hates early dining.
Yeah, because she's Brazilian. She should be eating late.
Exactly. But whenever we did late dining, I would be so full, I couldn't sleep. And I was just like miserable laying in bed. And so I always do early dining. It is
if you're doing late dining, you got to stay up a little later or walk around.
We're night people. We're up till midnight anyway, but
you still
can't do it. I can't eat that late.
All right. Well, but then some things you can't always agree on.
Then, like I said, we have the treasure in November. Very excited about that. And then we've been talking about experiencing Celebrity and Virgin. So we do have a 4-night Celebrity cruise booked for next January out of Miami, I think. And we are seriously considering, I haven't quite talked my wife into it, doing like a back-to-back Celebrity Virgin. And so the day we get off Celebrity, there's a Virgin voyage that leaves, and we might do those back to back and just knock them both up.
I don't even have a name for that. I mean, it's
it's a side to side.
Yeah.
It's a side to side, but it's different. Yeah. Different.
Is it like a side-eye side to side?
Yeah, I like that. A side-eye side to side. We're just going to come up with all kinds of names. I love it. Well, and both out of Miami be super easy.
Exactly. We literally just got off one, walk on the other one.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well,
I would caution you don't try to walk down the.
Yeah, sure.
No, you might. You might have to take a short taxi ride. But anyway, Chris, we of course love to have you back. Definitely want to have you back to talk about the treasure and maybe to talk about the Celebrity and Virgin, especially if you do those back to back side to side. But thank you so much for coming. Thanks for reaching out. Of course, thanks for listening to the show as well. We really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun to relive our 2.5 weeks that we had a really great time on. So thank you.
Thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCLDuo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read it at the top of one of our main episodes. So please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCLDuo or email them at DCLDuo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to DCLDuo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCLDuo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLDuo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLDuo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.